Hey, it's Huck. And I get the impression more folks are paying attention to the presidential race this time around than generally do this far in advance. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that, well, one, there's no incumbent running for re-election. So whoever gets elected, it will be someone new. And two, well, Donald Trump. Now, I'll be posting something soon, breaking down each of the GOP candidates left in the field. But since Trump has dominated the race, and the media thus far, let me just say a few things about Donald Trump. As a so-called populist outsider, his tax policy is damn near identical to Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio. Massive, further tax cuts to the wealthy and mega corporations of America. While the folks he claims would play instrumental roles in his administration and are, key consultants and managers of his campaign, well, they're among the craziest wingnuts on the furthest edge of what is still legally defined as sanity. John Bolton, Chuck Lewandowski of the Koch-funded Americans for Prosperity, Matt Sipiolowski. I don't know if I got that right, but he's also one of these Koch-funded Americans for Prosperity lunatics. And a host of staffers who previously worked for homophobic or anti-immigrant Republicans such as Rick Santorum and Steve King and Rick Perry. And as for being a negotiator on foreign trade deals, let's be frank. The problem with our trade deals has always been the mega corporate lobbyists who write the deals to begin with, all more concerned about copyright protections to monopolize the worldwide market for decades rather than any interest at all in how many jobs are lost to American workers. Trump, whose hotel on the edge of Las Vegas is one of the few hotels in that county to employ non-union workers, and whose properties in Atlantic City and throughout the world are as expendable as pension plans in bankruptcy court. Trump has no record of advocating any policies that helped his workers, only his profits. Now, on the Democratic side, Bernie Sanders has some formidable obstacles to overcome in wrestling away the nomination from Hillary Clinton, the frontrunner. Unlike Barack Obama, Sanders is not the orator or as young and charismatic as the 2007 version of our current president. But the most significant hurdles for Sanders has more to do with Clinton's impressive network of experienced staff. Months before the first delegates are officially going to be decided, Clinton reportedly already has 1/4 of the delegates she needs to win the nomination. Now, Sanders is calling for a revolution to undo the last 40 years of Republican policies towards something more akin to what most of the rest of the developed world enjoys. Things like a more equitable tax policy, livable wages, paid health, vacation, family leave, and daycare services. And in all likelihood, he will need that revolution just to get the nomination. Now, you can say what you will about Clinton, that her husband was center-right on policies, at least back when Republicans knew where the center was, that she and her husband Bill are poll-driven when it comes to proposing policies, or that Hillary is as wary and guarded as Richard Nixon. And there are plenty of folks, Democrats included, who find her less than trustworthy or even honest. These shortcomings, along with the idea that if elected, the country will be forced to endure 4, maybe even 8 years of non-stop Republican attacks, obstructionism, impeachment proceedings, and whatever other chaos they can dream up. So let me set the record straight. 1. It is true that Bill Clinton was center-right. He was a Democrat from Arkansas, for Christ's sake. But he was also a Democrat dealing with Newt Gingrich and a very, very conservative Congress swept into power just 2 years after his election. Just like Obama dealt with ever since 2010. But in Clinton's case, he was willing to give a little to get something in return. But where he caved on things that at least the polls said were in his favor. While what he gained were largely, at least economically, more important. Things like higher taxes on the rich that wiped out the deficit and put the nation on track to paying down the debt. Guarded? Wary? Paranoid even? Yes. But let us remember, Clinton was under attack from some of the most vile GOP political operatives even before he ran for president. There were rumors of murders in Arkansas, an illegal land deal with some friends, the McDougalls, on an investment called Whitewater. And from there, a seeming unending array of nefarious scandals, only one of which, Bill Clinton's extramarital affairs, that turned up anything despite millions of dollars of right-wing funding and top-dollar prosecutors spending 8 years digging for absolutely anything. In fact, what was uncovered by attorney Theodore Olson, for instance, was that the Clintons were sometimes the victims of their own friends. Now, behind all of this conspiracy, dirt-digging bullshit were a few folks who are still at it. And one recently dead and buried, that being Republican funder and major Clinton smear campaign operative Richard Mellon Scaife, billionaire heir to the Mellon Bank fortune and owner-publisher of the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review. Now, like the Koch brothers, Scaife was absolutely devoted to libertarian causes and an absence of government wherever possible. Scaife was once a top Nixon insider. He invested over $2 million and hired a freelance writer named Christopher Ruddy to pursue anti-Clinton material throughout the Clinton presidency. Scaife and Ruddy later teamed up to create and operate Newsmax Media, whose attacks against everything Clinton continues, but also extends to everything Democrat. Scaife was also the major funder behind the attacks of Clinton by the American Spectator and then reporter David Brock, a one-time intern at the Wall Street Journal and an early member of the Conservative Heritage Foundation. Brock in 2004 confessed he was no more than a political operative. All that time he was writing at the American Spectator and writing scathing articles not only on the Clintons, but among other things on Anita Hill, who you may recall testified against Clarence Thomas during his Supreme Court justice nomination. Now, what turned Brock was two things. One, he says he discovered that a lot of the sources for his material turned out that they were getting paid under the table. For instance, Arkansas state troopers were getting financed by some of these Republicans. Now, Brock ended up apologizing to both Clintons and others his efforts cast shadows upon, and he went on to form Media Matters to unveil what he terms are dishonest, partisan right-wing media. He's staunchly supporting Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign. Now, there's no doubt that Clinton's campaign will launch an avalanche of hitman attacks, some probably stemming all the way back to her Rose law firm days and its ties to the McDougalls and the failed Whitewater land development. And some voters, including Democrats, will surely bemoan the fact that should she be elected, those in an endless parade of similar investigations and accusations will follow. Now, Scaife is not around anymore. And in his latter days, he actually made peace with the Clintons as well. But in his place, there remains a network of wingnut, so-called conservative sites to do the bidding of some very rich, very selfish businessmen. Some from Wall Street, some from oil-rich and real estate-rich Texas and Oklahoma, the Kochs from Kansas, and one particular media tycoon from Australia, just to name a few. And it really doesn't matter in the end, whether it's Hillary Clinton or Barry Sanders or Mother Teresa back from the grave who gets the Democratic nomination, because we can be certain the insidious, noxious attacks will be forthcoming. Obama, about as scandal-free as one can be personally, is proof of that. Now, despite the Bernie Sanders bumper sticker, on my shelf, and the Hillary Clinton bumper sticker I hope to receive any day now, I haven't actually determined my choice of Democratic candidates. Because there is more to this election than just a row of check marks on a list of issues that meets my agenda. There is the ability to get some of it done in the face of unrelenting and wholly disingenuous obstruction. One thing that must happen is a Democratic plan to change the makeup of Congress, including the House of Representatives. But another thing that we should keep in mind is whether the person who is elected can withstand the inevitable wholesale attack strategy sure to follow. And on that score, I'm not sure whether Clinton isn't equal to the task. As they say, the boiling water that softens the potato also hardens the egg. A lot depends on what you're made of. Anyway, I'm Huck. I'll be back soon with a little video about how Republicans have perfected public relations and how Democrats could learn something from them. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again real soon.